Welcome back, you guys. For today's video, we're going to be going through and working on the Alltrack. It's going to be like the first video working on this, but the plans for today are to install the JB4, which I have sitting right here in a tangled mess. Go through that, install that, download the app, the JB4 app, try and tune see what there is there, and play around with the tunes a little bit. For what I know, they have a few preset maps that you can use, so we'll play around with those. I know the issue with right now is I haven't been tuned on the car, so I use 87. A lot of the tunes are 91 or 93, so before we can load one of the tunes on, I may have to drain my tank or use up all the gas and then fill it up before I can throw a real tune on. But that's the plan. Should take a little bit. I know there's only 4 connectors really, or 4 sensors that need to be unplugged and then connected into, so shouldn't be too terrible. Probably the biggest pain would be making it look pretty while all in the engine bay, but we'll see how long that takes, and then if we're able to get out and drive the car around afterwards. But let's get started. Alright, to start working on the car, putting the JB4 in, there's a few things that need to come off. Primarily one, I need to take the engine cover off. So that's easy to do. Just held on by little rubber grommets. And I'm hoping the battery doesn't need to be disconnected and taken out. There is a little grommet that goes through the firewall. It goes through the firewall into the cabin of the car. I'm hoping I don't have to move the battery because I do have to fish a wire through there to the OBD2 port. But other than that, pretty much everything can be accessed from the top. There is one wire or one plug down here that I need to get to. I'm hoping I can just reach my hand down in there. If not, I will have to jack the car up and get to that just that one sensor, because everything else, sensor here, kind of hard to see. That plug right there, and this bottom plug right here. So I'll probably have to take part of the intake off too, just to make it easier to access the that plug as well. So I'm going to go ahead, get started. Again, I hope it doesn't take too long to do. So this is the OBD2 connector. In order to fish this through the firewall, I ended up having to take the battery out. You can see here, so luckily that grommet is already punctured with my boost tap hose, so I was able to fish a metal coat hanger through there. So I got to go through to the other side, and I got to tape on this end in order to pull through. But I'll show you on the inside what we're working with. It's a very tight space, incredibly hard to see, but I have the wire there, and everything is going through right up there. Very hard to see, but luckily, with the help of the screwdriver, I was able to get that metal coat hanger through. Now I just have to hold on. Now I just have to, oh God, the lighting's terrible. Now I just got to connect tape that connector onto the end of the wire and pull it through. So let's see how well that goes. All right, so I ended up having to take the battery tray out just to access this area, because the grommet back there accidentally popped out, so I'm gonna have to replace it. But process of taking the battery tray out, I accidentally broke this piece right here. It should have this grommet that goes over top. So the grommet came with the IE intake, but you're supposed to have like this little retainer. Well, I ended up breaking that off, so I'm gonna pay the consequences, and I'm gonna end up getting a new battery tray, and I'm not looking forward to seeing how expensive that will be. But I got the wire pulled through, had to completely take the intake off as well. So if I get up in there, you guys can't really see in there, but I got to get all the way back in there in order to pop that grommet back in. So fun. All right, so I was able to get the battery tray back in. I got my wires coming through. I zip tied them to the boost tap, so it was just a matter of retucking everything once I'm done in there. But for the fact of this, I messaged one of my friends, asked them if it was worth super glue and getting a new one, and then he gave me the idea of just putting a zip tie, popping one through here. Well, put the bushing on, and then pop a zip tie up through, put the intake on, and then that way just zip tie the intake down. And he said he did that for his, and it hasn't moved in I don't know how many miles. So that's actually what I'm gonna do. So I'm gonna keep on going. So I was working on getting the tap for the air fuel sensor on. I originally bought this. This was so I didn't have to tap into the harness of the car. Essentially, I would just unplug this, and then the connectors would go into either side, and it had this tap right here that this blue wire would connect to. Now this blue wire, this is to read the air fuel ratio of the off the turbo sensor, or off the turbo O2 sensor, and come back to the ECU. But the guy that made this, he made it the wrong connector, so this is pretty much useless to me. So I ended up having to use a tap. I forget what they're called, but they're made for this reason to tap, or for this use to tap off of a single wire like this. So tapped it that way. Now I wanted to do it, but it's just an air fuel ratio, or air fuel or O2 sensor wire. So if it ever breaks, I can always replace that. But I have that plugged in. Just got to fish it around. I have the sensor hooked up for the I believe it's the MAF sensor. So that's hooked up. Then I have this other one down here hooked up as well. Let me get a flashlight on that. Right there. There. Right here. It was no, that sensor right there. So that's plugged in. Now it's just a matter of getting this getting this plug and finding exactly where it goes in down here. Now that's going to be fun routing, because at least with these hoses, or with this wire, this one, and this one, I have spots I can tie it off to zip tie it, give some support. This one, I'm not really sure because it goes down between the radiator fans, the front of the block, and we got the accessory drive over here. So a lot of moving parts I kind of have to avoid. So I got to get the car jacked up. I gotta jack the car up, remove the belly pan, and then we'll take it off partially, and then I'll be able to find the plug I need to undo to tap into. And then once I get that done, it'll just be kind of cleaning up, zip tying the harness up, making it look nice and clean. Then I gotta download the app and start playing around with the software. All right, so in order to get the connector under the car, I had to go to AutoZone to get another pair of jacks because my only pair were being used up by that thing. So I had to get the car jacked up because I had to remove the entire belly pan. I thought I'd be able to take off a few bolts, pull it down, get my hand up in there, but that thing is so rigid, I cannot. Also, I took the connector off again so I can make it pretty. In the process of doing so, I lost a clip that goes onto this. So it's in the belly pan, gotta pull it off. Might as well just do it all the way. So I'm gonna have to have fun crawling around on the ground. All right, so I got everything back together. JB4's in, kind of just sitting there loosely. That's better. I'm not a fan of how it sits in there. It's very loose, so I might try to model a bracket in there and then 3D print it. And then somehow there's a mount right here, or not a mount, but like a bracket to hold the battery in place so it doesn't slide. There's a bolt on there, so I might try to reuse that bolt with the mount for the JB4. But we have, let me grab the flashlight again. We have all the lines in there. Everything's nice and zip tied up. I think I got everything for the most part. Now it's just going in, cleaning up, going inside the car, cleaning up what I did in there earlier. And then I guess the next step is downloading the app and then starting to play with that. As I mentioned earlier in the video, I said that I would have to go out and drive the car once I got the JB4 installed and see how the performance was compared to stock with the new tune on it. Like I said though, I needed to empty the tank and put 93 in, which I never got to do. I also ended up running into a problem with the harness from the JB4 on the car. When I started it up, I got a check engine light. So I pulled the codes on that, ended up being a map sensor. The code was, it was getting high resistance, so I was throwing the code from the map sensor. I went in, cleared the code, and next time I went to go start the car up after, it kept throwing the code, clear it through the code, so I ended up having to do some digging into it. It took me a bit to figure out. I thought at first maybe it would be an issue with the air fuel sensor, or sorry, not the sensor, but the air fuel tap into the O2 line. But reading all the forums and all that, typically with that you'd have more codes thrown as well. Didn't read, or I'm not too sure what they were, I can't remember. But luckily I ended up having a whole second, it was pretty much a brand new harness that went onto the JB4. So I ended up taking the old one, which I have right here, completely stripping it from the car. I ended up adding the new one back onto the JB4, so all fresh wiring, put everything back on. pretty much did the whole process twice. But with the startup on that, so far no issues. I've been driving on it for, say, 2 days. No check engine light. I'm hoping it stays that way. If not, I got a new issue, or hopefully it's not a new issue or the same one that was coming up before. From all the research I've done, I've been talking with George at JB4. It's kind of just like a weird instance, just because there was no other codes thrown with it. So right now it's working good. Hopefully by this weekend, I'll be able to have a full tank of 93 and be able to throw the tune on. Once I get that tune on, I can report back to you guys. I'll test out the map 0. You have map 0, 1, and 2 that I can use. There's also a custom map, which is 6, which I have input from buddies of mine where they have sent me their custom map 6 tune that I can also add in. But I can swap between those 4 maps, see the performance difference between all of them, and then I can report back to you guys, let you know what the difference is between all those, and see how much I like it. I mean, the next step forward for this car, besides like wheels, brakes, the next step engine performance-wise would be to add on the turbo. I'm not sure when I will get to that, but it'll definitely be before we go down to Alpine Bulks Fair in Helen. But don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and leave that notification bell on for the next video. See you guys.